Y'all know exactly what happens when I put this hair up. I'll get into business. I don't play around. Let's go.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Real ass bitch, give a fuck about a nigga. Big Birkin bag, hold 5-6 figures.
Good morning,
Damn!
good evening, and good day to everybody, and welcome to my channel. Or if you're real, welcome back. My name is Jalen, as you already know. And today we're going to be talking about something that's going to piss me off probably for the rest of my life, but what is actually different from everything else that goes on in the world? Seems like a lot of things that happen today in today's society piss me off, and I don't really see it changing anytime soon. So here we are. So today's topic is actually going to be about Quiet on Set, the dark side of child's TV. I gave my general reactions to the documentary and everything like that, but it really did spark some interesting reactions. It seems like a lot of people forgot how to play the quiet game. You know, some things from childhood really need to stick with a lot of folks. And that should really be one of them. Knowing when to shut up. Knowing when to stop talking. Knowing when to be quiet. A lot of people just don't seem to get that. But since they don't, we're going to talk some more about them. Since they obviously want to have a conversation. So let's go ahead and get into it. I have a list of people. Because I can only take so much tomfoolery and dumb fuckery in my brain at so much time. So I have to make a list in order to remember who exactly I want to talk about. So here we go. The first person I want to talk about is the lead actor of Just Jordan. If you don't know what Just Jordan is, it was a Nickelodeon show. They got like one season back in like 2007. What is his name? I don't even know the person's name. That's how irrelevant he is. Jordan Lewis. Okay. He had a lot to say about the documentary that came out. I mean, it wasn't a lot per se, but he could have said nothing. How it says here, Jay Lewis or Jordan Lewis said on Facebook. He said it on Facebook. So that in itself tells you where this is gonna go. Stated, Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving them no ass, LOL. Okay. I want to remind everybody that this was about the dark side of children television. Children. Meaning that the actors that he's talking about were apparently giving up ass were children. So, I just can't. You know, I talk a lot of shit. I talk a lot of shit. I don't really mean it.
I mean every word.
I mean everything in me when I say that there are just some people who were made for hell. There were just some people who were just made to burn in hell. What do you mean you weren't giving up ass? Well, maybe you would have had a second season. But in all seriousness, it just really shows that a lot of y'all just don't need to be around children because of how you speak about them and how you speak about their experiences. These children weren't giving up ass. These children were violated. These children were put in uncomfortable situations in order to fulfill their own dreams. And you're talking about you didn't give up ass because your show got canceled. There's probably a multitude of reasons why your show got canceled. That didn't have to do with you being as a child actor. But none of us will never know that because nobody gives a now. You got your ass on Facebook.com and started to act a fool. That's actually what's going to take me out. You had to say this on Facebook because, you know, if you brought that ass to Twitter, you would have got done. Because you know the type of crowd that's on Facebook. You know, we all know. So, yeah, I just don't understand where exactly he thought he was going to go with that. But I can say where he can go now. Right where that show went. Next person I want to talk about, one of the moms of the original actors of All That. Creator Jalen here. This is misinformation. I'll correct myself later on. I'm a dumbass, sorry. Can't remember her name. She's just as irrelevant, but let me go ahead and try to find it for y'all because, you know, research.
Oh, brother!
Oh.
You're a dummy, bitch!
It was his boy. Okay, yeah. So, of course, I found the article, and of course, it's from the Shade Room. So, please take this with a grain of salt. But it was actually still true. I saw the screenshot, but the article is from the Shade Room. Y'all already know how I feel about the Shade Room.
Death to all of them.
Christopher Massey's mom. Christopher Massey was an actor on Zoe 101. Okay, period. Dan Schneider, you are awesome. You are a genius. I can't thank this guy enough for the opportunity he gave my son, at Christopher Massey, whatever, and my family. Blaming the parents, not Dan. I know all of us at this point are familiar with the trend that was going around about things I'm afraid to admit as a black person, or you know, the other one, things I'm not afraid to admit as a black person. Things I'm not afraid to admit as a black person is that these are the type of people, or black people, that I'm afraid of. The black people that will literally suck the toe of the devil himself just because something positive happened to them and they black ass mama and daddy and family. One thing about victim blaming is that people have to feel like if it didn't happen to them, then it must not have happened at all. Or if the person that's being blamed for whatever's going on did something positive for them, then it just alleviates everything else that they've done. If they done something positive one time, if they did a good thing one time, everything else is just gone. It's just gone, disappeared, poof, be gone. No, that's not how things work. Blame the parents, not Dan. I don't know how exactly you got that from the rest of the documentary, because the documentary wasn't even solely about the children. There were two women writers who expressed, you know, their experience about working with Dan as well. So are we going to blame their parents as well for the fact that they have to encounter this man and the fact that he worked to have their salary split, and then basically, because that's what it was, one of the other writers, one of the female writers, during a pitch for the show. It's just like, y'all don't even know what's actually going on. But of course, the comments got her ass together, one stating that just because your child wasn't affected doesn't mean he didn't do anything. She belongs in hell like the rest of them. Thanks. What else came from him being on Zoe 101 that blessed you and your family so much? The DUI? So as I look and go back at what I was talking about, he was not arrested for DUI. My apologies. It was for domestic violence. Because clearly that's better. Yeah. I mean, clearly, if the door was open, he shut that put the staplers on it, because I didn't see him in anything else after that. And that's no shade. It's no shade. But girl, clearly the opportunity didn't do much, because here we are, and here you are on Instagram stories cutting the rug for Dan Schneider. Let's move on before I get pissed off even more. Next group of people, I don't really know what else to say about them besides the fact that I wish that Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everybody would just collectively come together and just ban all three of these people from the social media space, because they have continuously been pissing me off every single year since 2020, doing something I didn't ask for, doing something that I didn't want, saying something I didn't want to hear. I don't know why they continue to speak, but I guess this is what happens when you don't have a job, or at least a good paying one. And who I'm referring to is the Ned Declassified main cast. Obviously, they had something to say about the documentary. Not even watched the documentary yet. They didn't even watch the documentary yet, but they already had something to say, stating that, you know, basically, they didn't go through any of that on their set. No, you didn't go through any of that on your set, because y'all were too busy having sex with each other at 12 and 13.
I mean, what the fuck?
So yeah, very protected. Very protected. Y'all were good. Y'all were good to go. Nobody was, y'all was fine. Y'all was so good. So good and so good. And it's just like, the thing about victim blaming is that you don't even necessarily have to bring up the victim in order to blame them for the circumstances. If it didn't happen to you, then it must have never happened to anywhere else. Or if it didn't happen to you, then somebody else must have did something wrong. Because why it didn't happen to me? Why didn't it come on this end? Why does that matter? Be blessed. Be happy about the fact that you did not have to go through what these children, now adults, had to experience. Be happy about that. Be happy about the fact that nobody was trying to probably creep in on you that you know of while y'all was over here screwing each other in between scenes. Be happy about that. It just really pains me to see that people are so oblivious to how they behave and how they speak about other people's experiences when they can't relate to it. I don't get that. How can you even come up with something like that to say about somebody else's experience? And then want to backtrack and say, I did see the documentary, and damn, we shouldn't have said that. You damn Skippy. That's the thing I hate the most. Y'all have so much to say about somebody else's experience, and you don't even know exactly what you're talking about. And you're admitting that you don't know what you're talking about. But now we kind of backpedal, and now we try to do the whole nine. I can't. I didn't. Shut up. That's what I'm saying. Like, girl, what happened to the quiet game? The quiet game, when we used to stop talking. I'm going to move on because they're probably going to do something in the next couple of months that's going to piss me off. And I just don't understand why they continue to just bother me. But I guess that's what happens when you're mad and unemployed. You don't have nothing else to do but to bother the internet with your antics and unwanted stuff. Nobody needs to know that y'all was having sex in between scenes. No one wanted to know that. No one asked about that. No one even asked about the damn show. We don't care. We don't care. Ew. The next person I actually want to address, the man of this unholy hour, Dan Snyder. So obviously Dan has something to say about the documentary. So he felt it right to go ahead and put out a 19-minute interview of himself on his own page, being interviewed by the black guy that played the Donut Man on iCarly. Anytime somebody wants to make someone believe what they're saying and want somebody on their side and wants the word to get them on the side, they're gonna get somebody black, and it's gonna be hashtag that type of black person. It's gonna be it's gonna be hashtag that type of black person every single time. Because girl, anybody with sense would have never even picked up the phone for that nasty ass man. But here we are. I'm never gonna hold y'all. I did not watch none of this interview because I don't, like I said, I have only so much capacity for foolishness. But I'm gonna go ahead and watch it.
It hurts really bad for me. I remember in the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes.
Girl, here's the thing. Why are we making inappropriate jokes writing for a children's show? I think that's the thing that's going to get me the most, is that we keep talking about, inappropriate things being shot out during writer's room and pitches and stuff like that. Why are we thinking about inappropriate things when we're talking about writing for a children's show? What exactly is being said that's inappropriate for a children's show? This is not, and like, I'm sorry. Shut up.
A lot of success.
This interview is scripted down. This interview is scripted down. This interview, girl, this is already like not. They literally had this done before the documentary came out. First of all, this video was posted the day after the documentary came out. How? Unless he got like a special preview, even though it was about his ass. How did you know that this was gonna? But you already had. Okay.
is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
I'm sorry. Asking one of your women in the writer's room to act in a way that is reflective of... That was pressure? That's what happens when pressure gets to you? I thought pressure made diamonds, not criminals. This is one of the things that always kills me. When it comes to apologies, when it comes to public apologies being posted on YouTube, the comment sections are always off. How are we talking about having conversations and the main form of conversation that people can have with you in regards to this video, they can't even do it because you turned it off. You don't even let people have the option to even have an opinion about what it is that you're talking about. And that's like grade A manipulation.
Those jokes are inappropriate for children.
He is flying through these questions because he already knows the answers. He's crept through these answers.
Because kids thought they were funny, and only funny.
Everyone raise your hand if you thought that Trina Vega getting sprayed with lotion repeatedly was funny. Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
Honestly, I don't care. I don't care to hear from Dan. I don't care that Dan is even still part of the land of the living. You know, I try not to wish bad will on other people.
It was all a lie. She lied.
But when it comes to you being in endangerment to multiple marginalized groups on purpose, doing it on purpose, and doing it for decades and decades and decades and decades on end. And the only time when you feel like addressing it is when you're put on blast. And it's not even the first time that he's been put on blast. It's been known information that you are a weirdo. But now you feel like it's the time that you want to pick up the phone and apologize to folks. Now it's the time that you feel like you need to put out a public statement, being interviewed on your own channel. Why is now the time? Why was it never back then? Why was it never when you were getting sued for gender discrimination? Why was it never when you were filming those children on those sets and you saw that they were uncomfortable? You looked at how uncomfortable they were. You saw that. Why was it not the time then? But now it's the time. A day after the documentary dropped. Let me go ahead and move on. For the most part, general reactions from Twitter and Instagram, people were actually like really shocked and just felt really bad for everyone and just, you know, giving all powers to the victims of these instances that were, you know, featured in the documentary. But there were a couple of comments that kind of pissed me off a little bit, stating like, why wasn't so-and-so in the documentary? Or he should have said something a little bit sooner. Or why did he say something when the documentary dropped? Let me explain something to y'all. Victims do not owe the public anything. People in relationship with victims do not owe anybody anything. We are just here to listen to people share their experiences, and that's it. The documentary, for real, it wasn't even for us. It was for the people who wanted to share their story about what's going on to them to share. All we were here to do was listen. And I think it's very hard for a lot of people to understand that, especially when it comes to celebrities, because everything about celebrity culture is about sensationalizing everything about that person, including the worst of their experiences. We're living in the era of like, everything, it has to be a headline. Everything has to be the big bold letters.
The big front bold background. Don't read that.
We have to get out of that, because these are people's real experiences and these people's like real stories. And if they don't want to be a part of sharing that, or don't want to be part of sharing that anymore, then they are more than allowed to do that. I don't care if I don't hear from Amanda Bynes ever again about what it was that she went through. If she doesn't want to talk about that no more, she doesn't want to talk about it no more. If Ariana Grande doesn't want to be in a documentary and explain why whatever happens to her and the things she has to do in the video, no, she doesn't have to do that. Nobody is obligated to explain themselves to anybody, especially the general public. Who the fuck are we? Let's just be for real. No one is obligated to share anything with anyone. And that applies to celebrities when it comes to speaking with people who are their fans or people who just want to be in to get some tea. This is not tea, y'all. This is not like Oh, girl, like, no, that's not that. These are people's real life traumatic experiences that are going to be with them for the rest of their lives. Most of the people are not going to be thinking about this documentary days on days on days. People are going to be remembering these experiences if it happened to them. This is not tea. Like, people just need to remember that. And the last group of people or whatever I want to address is Nickelodeon, because you are not off my hook, fish. You're not off my hook. And even though the documentary was set on making Dan the antagonist and Dan is the antagonist, you are the breeding ground. The network knew so much about Dan and about what he was doing. And it knew so much about the people who were actually committing those heinous acts to those children. Those very heinous acts to those children. They knew because they covered it up. They wiped the floor clean with that one. Multiple times. So at this point, the only appropriate thing that Nick can do, and y'all gonna be mad about this, y'all gonna be mad as hell, but ask me, do I care? And then ask me why I don't. Right. The only thing Nickelodeon can do at this point is to wipe the floor clean with all of Dan's shows on every single television platform. And y'all aren't gonna be mad as hell because why does that even matter? What that's gonna do for the victims, everything, what is that gonna do? No, you're gonna take away my childhood. Your childhood should already be tainted after watching this documentary. So anything done after this it should not impact you in any way, because your childhood or whatever, attaching your childhood to these shows, it should already be gone. Why would you want your childhood to be associated with these shows knowing what you know? And I think that's the thing, like, for me, when I know so much, I don't look at things the same. I don't know what it is about everybody else when they can just look at things after knowing very, like, vital information about it and just look at it the same way that they could beforehand. But that's not, I don't work like that. And I know people operate differently, but I just feel like generally, you should not just watch a documentary like that knowing the information that you know and then be like, well, time for some more iCarly. Like, we're all too big for that. Everyone who watched them shows are most likely adults now. And a lot of y'all are attaching yourselves to nostalgia more than y'all actual morals. Attach your childhood to something else. Like, girl, if there was nothing else enjoyable about your childhood, then I'm sorry to tell you, I'm sorry. But the fact of the matter is that we cannot allow these shows to keep getting the traction that they get, knowing what we know and knowing what was going on in front of and behind the camera. There were so many things mentioned in the documentary that were happening while the camera was on, still in those shows. And aired shows that we can still stream today. Why would you want to watch that? And really just a general thing, if that documentary didn't want to make you be more conscious about the way that you interact with children in general, then you are a risk factor to child safety.
Clock that T. Clock that T.
There is no reason why you should watch a documentary like that and not be conscious of the way that you speak about children, that you interact with children, that you... whatever you do that involves something dealing with a child, whether that be in whatever space, you are a risk factor. Someone in the documentary made a good point. I think she was like I don't know if she wasn't a journalist or somebody. I'm gonna put her right here. I loved her, actually. She made a good point by stating that when you are in an environment with children, that environment has to be so comfortable for those children that they come to the highest person in charge whenever they feel uncomfortable. And I'm gonna take it a step further. There should be no point where a child feels uncomfortable. There should be no point when a child feels like something is wrong here and I am not safe within this space with these adults. That should never, ever even come across a child's mind. And if that's the case, then the adults need to re-examine what's going on with them. And what is it about this environment that is making this child feel this way? And how can I alter that? Because children already don't have the autonomy to do what they want to do. They don't have the autonomy to make decisions on their own about their own peace and their own well-being. If the adults are going to be the ones held in power when it comes to decisions involving the children, then logic says that the adults need to be held accountable whenever children are feeling uncomfortable or in danger. That's logic, but clearly not everyone works on logic, which is why we are here right now where we are. So those are the reactions from people who were pissing me off. You know, some people just don't need to be, again, around children and just around marginalized groups in general. The docuseries really ate when they added the perspectives of the 2 women writers for the early seasons of The Amanda Show, because it really showed that if a person is a risk factor for one marginalized group, they are not off limits for anybody else. If this man was a weirdo around children and he was a known weirdo with children, what makes you think that he was not going to be a danger for these women? Or for really anybody else, any other marginalized group? What makes you think that he was not going to be an endangerment to anybody else? That's something that I'm not going to just be watching lightly. Like, I probably will never watch that again because that was just too much. That was just too much.
Too much!
Nickelodeon shows and like all the obviously big TV shows for kids were a big part of my childhood. But I'm at the point enough to be like, okay, that was cute. Never again. I don't need to revisit that ever again. Even if I am going on a nostalgia trip, I don't need to go there. There were other shows that I hope we're not putting those children through the same things that I had to witness these children get put through on this damn docuseries. I hope and pray. But Disney, you're next. Cause I already know. Disney, you're next. Disney, next. For me, I don't have to watch those shows ever again in order to feel good about my childhood. There comes a point where the safety of other people they have to come first. Especially for vulnerable people like children who, again, do not have the autonomy to make their own decisions when it comes to how they interact with adults. Good evening. Creator Jalen here. Again, no outro. This time it's not my fault. My phone died. Damn it, girl. But overall thoughts about the documentary, I think that is a necessary watch. Not even just to know about the cases dealing with the child actors that are now adults, but to really just have a better sense of what it means to be a child actor and why protection for those child actors and protection for children in general just needs to be more of a focus for really every adult, in my opinion. For any adult that has any position of power over a child, it doesn't matter what, you need to be more conscious about how you're talking to that child, how you're treating that child, how you are speaking of that child when that child is not even around. You just need to be more conscious about your decision making when it comes to children, just in general. And another thing, I don't want to hear nobody else in America speak about child labor laws in anybody else's country. Because where were the laws for this? Where was the child labor laws in this case? Cases, I should say, non-existent. So yeah, that's really the video. Thank y'all for tuning in and for watching it for this long. If you made it to the end, you're so real. So real. The next video. I just missed the whole damn camera. This is not, y'all, YouTube is new. Just stop.